Hey, everybody, welcome to the Crossroad Diner. Steve McCurdy, your host here, and Michael Kohan is with us today. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, it's good to be here. Fighting a head
Michael's
cold, but I'm still excited.
Michael is all about positivity, and he and I have been talking about the diner and the philosophy and how we come to places and crossroads that are difficult for us, and that it becomes a mirror. And we really look at ourselves and we have to make a decision. And the story he's going to tell you today is very dramatic. Get us started on this. You got married at 29.
So I met my first wife when I was 23 years old.
Okay.
I moved in with her as my girlfriend within 1 month of dating. We were together till I was 29 years old. I got married when I was 29 years old and divorced at 29 years old.
Okay, so 6 years together, living together.
6 years living together, correct. Bought an apartment too.
You would think that you had the information you needed.
Correct. I got married, thought my life was completely set, ready to start my life as a young married man. And I came home one day and she said she was not happy and she was leaving me because she was afraid I was going to leave her one day.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so you were confronted with an ultimatum, more or less. And how did you manage? How did you process that? What did you do?
Very poorly for about 2 years. I went really nuts because I felt that I missed out on my 20s after this.
Yeah.
So I was 29 years old, turning 30, living in New York City, was in a long-term relationship since I graduated college. And as all my other friends were out having a good time, dating, being single, going to the bars, I was living very much a very quiet life. And I also was making about $130,000 a year 20 years ago.
Good
and
money.
So I just went nuts. I went out, I partied, I went crazy until a friend of mine pulled me aside and said that you're going to have a heart attack and die a young person if you don't start making changes in your life. And so I took a long look in the mirror and I was like, okay, I actually need somebody to talk to. So I just kind of went online and found and searched for a therapist that was right around the corner from my house, who turned out to be a really cool guy who was very much into, Hebrew, like Jewish mysticism and yoga. And that just started me on this journey of personal growth. And because of him, I am now a life coach.
Okay, wonderful. So what kind of work were you doing that was making you all the money?
I worked on Wall Street. Well,
Okay.
Wall Street adjacent. I worked for a couple of real estate.
Might be the case.
I worked for various real estate investment trusts.
Okay. All right. And so, as far as the scorecard was concerned, life looked right.
Oh yeah. Everybody thought I had everything under the sun. And when I quit my full-time job and decided to become a yoga teacher, no one knew that I had drug and alcohol addictions. No one, on paper, I looked like I was in control.
Right.
I worked 75 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I went to the gym. I practiced yoga. I was a nice person. No one knew behind closed doors that I had prescriptions to Valium, Vicodin, Percocet, Adderall, Focalin, Ritalin, Xanax, all from like 8 different doctors in New York City, because I was making a bunch of money. I had really good health insurance. This was before the OxyContin scandal, so it was very easy to get medicine from doctors. And all I had to do is just have 8 different doctors prescribing me prescriptions that no one knew about. And I kept it very much a secret for a long time.
What did you get from all of those drugs? What did that give you?
Well, I wasn't the smartest person. I didn't have an MBA from Harvard.
Got it.
I didn't have a PhD from MIT. So the only way for me to compete was I would have to outwork you.
Okay.
So if you worked 8 hours, I worked 10. If you worked 10, I worked 12. If you worked 12, I worked 16. If you worked on Saturday, I worked Saturday and Sunday. And the only way to do that, the only way to keep up that intensity is through drugs. So I would take Adderall in the morning, pump lines of Falkland in the afternoon, and the only way to come down was to take antipsychotic medicines like Xanax and Percocets, and then Valium just felt good.
Okay. All right. But somebody loved you enough to pull you aside and hold up a mirror.
No.
No?
I was practicing yoga at the same time.
Right.
And that was probably my saving grace. And I was taking a yoga class. Then this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. This was before yoga was everywhere. So the yoga teachers that you studied with were very much into the philosophy and the spirituality of yoga also. And so I took a yoga class with a teacher. Her name was Sharon Gannon. And she had a Q&A at the end on what it means to live a spiritual life in modern world.
Right.
And I'm sitting next to this woman. I don't remember this woman's name. And I just got done with this yoga class, and we're all sitting around. We're all sweaty, and I feel really good.
Yeah.
And the woman asked Sharon this simple question of, you seem to have your life together, and you seem to be very happy, and you seem to be living your life purpose. What's your secret? And Sharon looked at the woman, smiled, and said, here's the secret. You're asking me this question because you're not happy. But the idea of you wanting to change will also make you unhappy, because change is hard. Change is painful. And you're also afraid to change because you don't know where you're going to go if you do change, because you fear the unknown. But if you're not happy right now, which is why you're asking me this question, and if you go on a journey of personal growth and you're going to have to change and you're not going to be happy doing that, what's the difference? So you might as well get started.
Okay.
And I sat there and I listened to that. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not happy. And I know if I change, I'm going to be miserable for years.
Right.
But if I do try, maybe I'll get to some place where I will find happiness eventually.
Was that true? Were you miserable for years on this journey?
Yeah, so it was a good, lonely journey for a long time. I had to change everything about me. I had to change how I lived my life, my friends. I had to change my relationship with my family, who I was as a person. So on my journey to go from a corporate executive in New York City, living a fast-paced life, to someone who went on a soul quest and studied Judaism and Hinduism and Christian mysticism, I really went through a life-changing period that for a long time was very lonely. But on that journey, I ended up meeting my wife. I ended up meeting my best friend. And now I'm in a place where I feel great. I love my life now. I get to help people, and I get to work with people on their personal growth without having to go through all the challenges that I went through.
But they have to be prepared to, I would say.
Look, there's one truth in this world. What's the one absolute truth in this world? There's only one. Okay. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
You and I are going to die. But we live by this illusion that it's not going to happen to us. So if the absolute truth is death,
yeah,
we're all going to die, then that means that everything in this world is constantly changing. And the only way to find real happiness, also known as fulfillment, is to be okay with the world ever changing. We suffer when we keep trying to cling to a life that is permanent, meaning like, my life was so good 10 years ago. My life was so good when I was a kid. My life is so good at this one point in my life. And that's why we suffer. It's when we understand that everything in this world is going to change, that we all are one day going to leave this body, and that we have to accept that fact, then we no longer suffer.
So this is an interesting timing thing. You and I were scheduled to talk a week ago, and you had things come up, and we had to reschedule. And I'm in a different place than I normally was in my normal studio. Getting here yesterday, I left very, very early in the morning because it was an 8-hour drive, and I left in the dark. And it it was 5 o'clock coming up on 6, and I'm on a major freeway, Interstate 75, and I'm going at a pretty good clip. And suddenly, way up in front of me, I'm seeing taillights when I hadn't seen much of anything. And so I'm in the middle lane. I start to slow down. The left lane is open. So I drift over into that left lane, and I see something in the distance, but I'm not sure. But I know it's in that left lane. So I drift back over into the middle lane, and I go past a car that has just flipped.
Oh, no.
And was facing back toward me. And as I go past it, it is flat from the headlights to right behind the driver's seat. And I'm going, oh my God, this just happened. That person just died, because I don't see an out for this situation. And the whoever encountered with them was on the other side of the road, pulled over, and there were all these trucks going by, and I tried to pull over and call 911, and cars were pulling in behind me to go do things. And I saw that there were more people than me handling the situation, so I decided to continue on. But what shook me about that is whoever was driving that car had gotten in the car this morning just like me, and did not expect it to end under that underpass.
Yeah.
It was like, bam, and they were either crippled for life or some miracle may have happened. Could be. But my thought, what impressed me was, likelihood is that when that roof collapsed, they went. And they had not expected that. And there's all these people going to be getting this news. People that are important to them are going to get the news. And their lives are going to change drastically today.
Mm-hmm.
And you never see that stuff coming.
And you never will.
What you have posited in this simple question that the woman asked is this notion that you're going to be paying a price for your life. You're going to be dissatisfied with it, or you're going to be uncomfortable working on it to some degree or another. Now, your positivity is important in your outlook, because it's in your press releases and in your website stuff. Connect those ideas for me about the challenge, the difficulty, the discomfort, and positivity. They seem antithetical.
Look, the challenge I feel like most people have in this world is the belief that this world is supposed to be good all the time.
Okay.
And that's just not reality.
Yeah.
This is not heaven, and this is not hell. This is a middle realm. This is a middle world, which means we have a certain amount of good in our life, and we have a certain amount of bad.
Right.
Most people live their life with this idea that they're trying to avoid the bad and seek the good. The goal, where you stay positive, is that you can see both the good and the bad in your life as equal in value.
Oh,
what do we mean by this, right?
Yeah.
What do we mean by this, right? Everybody has two lists in their lives. Everybody has a list of things on their, that says everything I like about who I am as a person. Everything I like about my life, my job, my career, my family, and my friends. What do I look like in the mirror? And everybody has this list of things that in their life that they don't like about their life. Who they are as a person, their life, their career, their friends, their family, their relationship. We all think we only have the bad list, and everybody else has just the good list. Or we'll think that our good list is really small and our bad list is really big.
Right.
And we think we're the only ones that have this really big bad list. We all have the same problems, whether you're a person making $1 million a year or someone working 2 jobs. By and large, we all have the same problems. It's how you look at them. If you look at your list and say, wow, these are the things that in my life that I like, that I'm grateful for. And I look at that with gratitude. And the list of things that I don't like, not as problems, but as opportunities for growth, then my life begins to get easier. Because what is the whole purpose in this world? Why are we born into these physical bodies? Are we born to be animals? Because what is an animal, right? An animal is someone who, avoids pain and seeks pleasure. So what do most people do? They wake up, they work, they come home, they consume. They wake up, they go to work, they come home, they consume. And what do they do on the weekend? What is the biggest pastime in America? Consuming. Buying crap that they do not need, comparing themselves to other people,
Right.
Constantly looking at how their life isn't being measured up to some ideal fantasy. And that that goes back to leading to suffering. If we look at our lives and say, wow, what I have, I'm grateful for. Gratitude, right? And the things in my life that I'm struggling with, maybe I'm going through some financial problems right now. I am personally. Like I have to really tighten the belt over the next couple of months and pay down some debt that I accumulated because I had to buy a new car because my car broke, and I have taxes that I got to pay for. So I got to be really tight in my budget for the next 4 months. Not fun. It's hard work. It takes discipline, but it's because I'm not attached to the highs and lows. I'm okay with when things are good, I enjoy them, and when things are hard, I understand that's where I improve my life.
Okay.
And that's how we stay positive.
That's great. That's fantastic. Now, talk to me about your starting place when you're working on life coaching. Because Crossroad Diners, on Monday we do Crossroad Coaching, where we take a principle and we kind of do some free groundwork there. And on Thursdays, like this, we do a case study where we take a person and put all of that theory into their life and how it came out. So. But do a little coaching with us right now. When somebody starts to, how do they find you? First off,
you mean like where do people come from with coach? Like where do I get a lot of my clients from?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of my clients, when I first started, I built my coaching business through a lead magnet system called Bark.com. Basically, it's if you just Google life coach near me, 2 platforms will typically pop up, if not 3: Thumbtack, Bark, and BetterHelp. Typically. And so with Bark, you pay like $300 a month. You get like 30 credits that equals 30 leads. Out of 30 leads, you get like 5 clients. So that's how I built my business years ago.
Got it.
I'm at the stage where I'm at now because I've been coaching for over 10 years. Most of my clients come in either through referrals or because I do a lot of podcasting. Also, people hear me on other people's people's platforms and then want to work with me. The thing I find interesting with, fighting this head cold. The thing I find interesting when I'm working with a client, nobody ever says to me when I first start working with them, and one of the exercises I always do, I ask them, like, what does your ideal life look like? What is the vision of what your ideal life is? Everybody's always like, has this description of this great person who is living a mindful life, who is living balanced in health and wellness, and always has the vision of doing some sort of noble service, whether it's starting a charity or creating a foundation and giving back to their community.
Right.
Every client from every religion, and I work with everybody. I work with people on the far right in America. I work with people on the far left. I work with people that are, Christian conservatives, and I work with people that are, ultra liberal, pan gender, you name it. I work
all
with
walks of life. Yeah, I got it.
All walks of life, and everybody has the same vision. But you got to ask yourself, if that's the case, why aren't we living that way?
Yeah.
And it's because we get sucked into the crap. It's not corporate media. It's not politics. It is the fact that we live in a world where we feel that if we don't have, that we are constantly sold that if you don't have this product or drive this car or wear these clothes, that somehow something is wrong with you.
Yeah, some symbolic substitution.
And here's the thing. Ready?
Yeah.
Now, I've worked with many people. I've worked with people where literally I'll work with a client where they're like, I'm in desperate need of a life coach and I can give you $40 a month, and I've worked with them, and I've worked with clients who are like, I make $1 million a year, charge me whatever you want. What's the difference between the two of them? It's not their salary.
Right.
It's wealthy people don't buy into the crap. They work to acquire assets and then let their assets buy the things that will give them a level of comfort while giving back. Because the most generous people I know that I work with are not people that were giving millions of dollars. It's the people that earned it.
Yeah. This is it's interesting that the Rolling Stones wrote a song called "I Can't Get No Satisfaction," and one of the lines is you can't be a man because you don't smoke the same cigarettes as me. And it's that business that you're talking about, right? That consumerism lie and the crap starts you chasing an uncatchable rabbit. And so where do you go from there? How do you begin that journey?
Well, ultimately, it goes back to gratitude. Like that, that's where it's like you literally have to get back to gratitude. The challenge I feel like everybody has, and it's a challenge I'm going through right now. I mean, like I have to pay back. My car broke. Like my car that I was driving, because I work full time from home, had 230,000 miles on it. The tires were shot. The brakes were gone. And the check engine light came on. And I've been kicking that. I needed to buy a car in 2019, but what happened in 2019? Right. What happened in 2020? COVID. So I didn't buy a car in 2020 because I didn't know where we were going to be. And then with the inventory and car prices. So I've been kicking the can down the curb. So I finally had to buy the car. And so I had to take money out of my emergency fund for the down payment on my car. Okay. Buying the car was fun. Paying back the debt sucks. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? What we have to learn is we have to learn the difference between what is called empowering habits and inhibiting habits, right? What do I mean there? Empowering habits bring you closer to the life you live, and inhibiting habits take you away from your life. And here's the rub, and this is science. It takes on average 66 bare minimum consecutive times to form an empowering habit. That's the average. And it takes 7 times to form an inhibiting habit. Wow. Right? So it's really quick to backslide and get into financial debt. Right? 7 days of shopping and you're a shopaholic. 66 days of living within a budget is the bare minimum to be good at managing your money.
Wow.
Now, the harder the habit to form, the longer it takes. So for people to form empowering habits and really get good with money, we'll go back because money seems to be one of the themes in America, to get good with money, to get good with financial health, that takes years of discipline where it becomes a lifestyle.
Right.
And what goes back to is most of us live in this mindset of instant gratification.
Absolutely.
What can I get today for reward? I work really hard all week in a job that I don't hate, but I don't love. But because I don't love it, social media tells me I'm supposed to love my job, and news articles and podcasts all tell me I'm supposed to love my job, but I don't love it. So I got to justify it, and I buy crap. So I buy luxury cars that I can't afford the car payment. And I buy homes that are too big that I don't need. And I go on vacations that put me in debt because somehow that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Because that's immediate gratification.
Right.
Versus let's be mindful and work through this hard period, which is where most of my clients really struggle with.
So you provide strategies of support in that transition.
Yeah, and I get to call them out on their BS. That's the best part of being a coach versus a therapist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've gone through some really, really familiar material today that everybody suffers through, that everybody's got things, How can people learn more about the work that you're doing? And if they want to reach out to you, how do they go about doing that?
It's really simple. You just go to my website, elevatelifeproject.com. Everything's there.
Say it slower.
Elevate Life Project.
Elevate Life Project.
The whole point is life is a project, meaning it never ends. The goal is like it's in the Bible, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, it's in the Diamond Sutras, it's in the Old Testament, it's in the Quran. The purpose of life is to grow. The purpose of life is to become self-actualized, to realize one's true self. So life is a never-ending project. And so my goal is to elevate your life. And so it's the Elevate Life Project.
And to your point, that's lovely. And to your point, there is no point of arrival. There's
never will be.
There's levels of development, and backsliding is easier than climbing.
Oh my God, it's so easy to backslide. I used to weigh 165 pounds. I used to be able to do handstand push-ups in the middle of the room. And I was in phenomenal shape as a yoga teacher, and I was doing acrobatics before COVID. And I'm 45 years old, so that's pretty good for a 45-year-old person. And during COVID, I slowly got out of flexibility and shape, and I developed a sugar addiction.
Mm.
And so I'm losing weight right now. And I cut out sugar in January with a lot of sugar withdrawals, and then got sugar out of my diet now. It's so easy to backslide back into eating sugar, having sugar every day.
Yeah.
Like that. It took me almost 90 days to get that out of my system.
Mm.
It will take me 3 days to have a sugar addiction again.
Well, I certainly know that's the case. Absolutely.
Right. And that's the rub, right? But that's the whole thing. It's like, what are the three things that we can control in this world? There's only three things that we have absolute control over. Everything else is out of our control.
Run them down.
How we think,
yep,
how we feel,
yep,
and how we react. That's it. Right? That's our free will. Everything else is predetermined.
That's a great place for us to put a button on this really great bunch of stuff. Michael Kohan, thank you for being in the Crossroad Diner today.
Thank you.
It's really great to have you. Now, next Monday, we're going to be taking a look at another coaching notion, so be sure to tune in then. And maybe if I can twist his arm, I'll get Michael to take one of those Mondays and walk us through a process. Until next time, I'm Steve McCurdy, and this is Michael Kohan for the Crossroad Diner. Okay, I'm going to hit stop.